everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for watching. Today we are going to work on talking to you about final consonant deletion. So that is when children drop the sounds at the ends of words. So they might say E for eat, or so for soap, or pa for pop. And a lot of younger kids do that. That's actually still normal for little ones to do that. But we will target that at the Walker Scottish Rite Clinic around 3. So if kids come in around 2.5 and for a screening, we'll recommend they go on our wait list because we do have a wait. And so that means then we'll try to work on it once they turn 3 if they're still totally dropping those sounds at the ends of words.
Yeah, so, and when a kiddo is dropping all those sounds, it might be a couple sounds in particular. It might be kind of globally where they're dropping like all ending consonants. Essentially, whenever you would see one of our therapists here, we would do some more in-depth either screening or evaluation to give you more information about how frequently that's happening. So we also, if it's only happening like less than roughly 40% of the time, then this might not be something that they need to work on. But if it is happening more than 40% of the time for age 3 and above, then we would definitely want to target it. And it could be, like I said, a variety of sounds. So we're going to just give you a couple examples with some of the really early developing sounds that we hear a lot that are omitted in words. So that includes the P sound, P, the T sound, T, the N, and then the M. And the thing about those particular sounds is that, so the P and the T especially are what are called voiceless. And so if we really would rather focus on those kinds of endings in words versus a voiced sound like Bob, because then you have this like exaggeration at the end, and we don't want to teach the extra like Bob when we're trying to really exaggerate and get them to imitate. Mm-hmm. So the P and the T are great because they're quiet, or they're silent. Well, not silent, but
they're also more visual. You can see how you say that versus other sounds in your mouth. You can't see them as much. So pa, you can actually see your mouth move, which helps kids to be able to add that on.
And same thing with just start talking. Okay. Same thing with M and N, they're very visual sounds. And since you can also kind of continue those sounds, it makes it easy to kind of really exaggerate. Like him, we kind of do lots of little tactile cues and things like that too.
Yeah. So Kara is going to talk about P first, and so just kind of some activities that you can do. When we work on these sounds, a lot of times we'll try to work on just that one sound at a time with some of the kids. Sort of working on a variety of sounds at once can be confusing. It sort of just depends on the child, though. So we might just do a whole session where we work on P at the end, and then the next couple of sessions we'll work on T in the end and that kind of thing. So again, it just depends on your kid, but these are going to be, we're going to kind of go through maybe what like a little session would look like. Yeah, so a kiddo that is having trouble with the P at the end, the P sound, if you have any kind of game that you have like something that can hop, like in this game the bunny can hop, and you can, any kind of opportunity where the bunny would hop, or if your child wants to play with the bunny and have them hop around the room, you could talk about that word with the final P. You could even have them hop and like set up a little game and maybe like a hopscotch or something, and have every time that the child would get a turn to hop, you have them practice that word hop. Another great one that a lot of little kiddos at this age love are just bubbles, and you could talk about when they pop the bubbles. Every time they get a turn, they get to say the word pop, and you probably would want to withhold with those little young ones and not blow the bubbles yet until they're ready to tell you, oh, I want to pop the bubbles. Let's see, what else? If you're playing like house and just with some, maybe your child likes to sweep or mop the floor. I don't have a little broom, but we actually have one at home. My son loves to just like carry it around, so you could have practice the word mop or sweep the floor. Or even if they are, if you want to try to work on things at home, every time they have a meal, you might ask them to really practice the word cup and practice that P at the end of the word cup. I think those were all of our ideas. Yeah. As you can tell, Kara is really exaggerating the sound at the end of the word. That's one thing that we do, is just to draw their auditory attention to that sound a little more. So instead of saying cup, you say cup.
Yeah.
Which seems really unnatural, and they may really exaggerate that sound, but they need that at first. And eventually they're not going to be saying cup.
Yeah.
But they need to see that visual and hear that exaggeration to kind of draw their attention to that sound a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Another one I really like for that we had kind of written down is yep, or nope is kind of good ones to work on those P's at the end, or up, every time you pick your kid up. Those are ones too. So for T, some good words to work on are like eat, hat, mat, sit, out, toot. So like if you're playing with trains, instead of doing choo-choo, you could do toot, toot, you know, and having them do that. You could do baby doll play and do dress up and having put on a hat, or have the baby sit and ask them to sit, or put on a boot, that kind of thing. You could also feed the baby and have them eat, and talk. You could talk about, ooh, the food is too hot. And so just really exaggerating that sound at the end of words. A lot of times we will do like different cues for things, and a lot of that is kind of trying to help show them how to make the sound. So a lot for T, I'll do hot, and that just kind of reminds them to put their tongue up. So think about how you make the sounds, and sometimes even just giving them a reminder of put your lips together or put your tongue up might help them to add that sound on the end, because they're really thinking through, thinking about that sound, and so that might give them a good idea. Another thing you can do is play with Play-Doh and do a pretend knife and have them cut. That one's a fun one. Or I think we've talked about these before, where we have the pretend, we call it slice-orific, where it's a food and they cut fruit. Again, you can do eat. So those are fun. I also do for this one plate. So you can use like a plastic knife for your kids, obviously, so that they're not using a real knife. But you can do a lot of those things. You can also just kind of keep things in the box and you withhold them and have them say out. Out is a very functional word that kids can use in a lot of different ways. So take the clothes out of the drawer. So just trying to think about how you can use that in more than one way throughout your day. The more often they're hearing it and the more often that they're working on it, the faster progress that they're going to make.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like that Allie touched on some of our cues and gestures that we do too, to kind of help exaggerate or help draw their attention to it. So like when we were doing the P, you might do pa, pa, or you might see somebody do pa, 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 to kind of help explain like that noise has this like plosive sound. It kind of explodes a little bit. So talking about the sound N, the N sound, like Allie was saying for out, the opposite of that, in, can be very functional as well. So every time you're going to clean up, you can put things in. There's another one, clean. Put things into the box. Maybe you have, toys in a box like Allie was showing you. Or you can even put something on something else on top. There's an N and a P. If you have like a little toy that has like cupcakes or something like that, you can put the cupcakes in the pan. So do pretend play with that. If you have, books are really a great opportunity just to look for any of these words that have those target sounds that you're listening for. So this is just an example of looking for a sun in the book. Every time you see the picture of the sun, you'd have your child practice sun. There's the sun. Where's the sun? Another example, if you go bowling or have like a little bowling play set, or even just like kind of make your own at home, you could have them knock the pin down. There's another one, pin and down. And again, like any kind of toy that you have, like here's a little monkeys in the barrel, you might dump them all out and then say, oh, we got to put them in. So anything like that can be really functional for your kiddos to practice that. And for that one, the cue I like to use is kind of touching your nose a little bit so that they know that that's that nasal sound, in.
Yeah, so that sound actually comes out of your nose. That's why when we're sick we sound funny, because there's some sounds that are nasal. So N is one, and so is M, which is the next one that I'm going to work on. So back to the monkeys. If you have anything that has like a lot of items, you could work on the word some. So just having them say, I want some. And then, just really exaggerating that sound. Sometimes that one can really help if you're doing and do that like really long at the ends of words. You can do pretend like people. If you do a house, pretending like someone is the mom, and then you can talk about him and putting him in the home. They have to go home, and really exaggerating that. You can also pretend to, again, feed people. We love feeding people, apparently.
We do it all the time. Therapy. Very functional.
But pretend to feed them some ham. It's a stretch, but you never know. Kids might like ham sandwiches, and have them say yum. And then you can also do pom-pom crafts, so like those little fuzzy balls, where you can just have them sort them, maybe by color or size, and then or also just kind of glue them on things and have them say "pom" over and over again. So yeah, I think, do you have any other ones? I think that's it.
That was it. So just in general, obviously, if your child is not having trouble with those particular final consonants, then you'd have to kind of be creative and think of other words that target those. I do think that a lot of the words that we talked about today are very simple. They're very much like a one-syllable word, and I think that's because most of these kiddos at this age, if they're dropping off these sounds, they're probably not using very complex words. They're probably not using 2 or 3 syllable words. So that's another thing to kind of think of if you have a child that needs to work on that, and you want to think about that when you're choosing your target words, because a word like, I mean, I can't even think of an example now.
Well, we didn't work on, like, green has a blend in it, so a lot of kids are going to already have a hard time with the G and the R, so focusing on the N might be kind of hard. You know, it just depends on the kid. Some kids might just say geen or gween, and they're fine with that.
Yeah. And that's something to just, talk to your therapist. If you're already seeing a therapist about it, then just ask, like, what's age appropriate and what's not, because we're not going to expect them to say all of those sounds, but those are the ones we're really targeting. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, at this age, at that 2.5 age, when parents call and say, I really can't understand them, a lot of times we tell them there's not a lot at that age they have to be doing perfectly. Mm-hmm. So if they're not talking, and they're not combining words and things like that, that's a concern. And if they're totally dropping sounds completely out of words, in the middle or the ends, that's something that we want to look at. But, for those 2 and 3-year-olds, there's not a ton of sounds that they have to say perfectly. So final consonant deletion is one of the first things that we will work on in regards to the speech side of things, of how do they say the word, what errors do they have.
Absolutely. And if you're ever in doubt and have a question, then just call our clinic. You can schedule a screening with your kiddos for free. So
yep. All right.
I don't know what next week's topic is.
I don't remember. We didn't
surprised.
All right. Thanks so much.